We move on to our second panel of the day, which is on making the most of EdTech trends, leveraging robotics, AR, VR, game-based learning, and more. The panelists for this session are Mr. SUDHIR KUKREJA, who is the co-founder at CREDENCE International Schools and CREDENCE EDUTECH, joined by Mr. SAMI ULLA, who is the CEO at MANIPAL Academy of Health and Education, Mr. ANANTHAKRISHNAN, who is the CTO of PLAYABLO, and Mr. NILESH GAIKWAD, the country manager at India at EDHEC Business School. The moderator for this session is the CEO and co-founder of EdTechReview, Mr. UTKARSH LOKESH.
Before we get on to the trends part of it, Nilesh, if you can set the tone on talking about a little more on the, from your perspective, what is the need for kind of embracing such newer learning models?
Okay, hi everyone. My name is NILESH GAIKWAD. I'm the country manager for the business school, which is based in France. So I come from the other side of the spectrum. Majorly, we see, whenever we have students coming into my BBA or my later on programs, we see kind of a culture shock for the students with the amount of technology that is involved within teaching, within building of our campuses itself. That being one of the major reasons why I believe that we need to move on to a more integrated solution. Apart from it, of course, students get to be aware of the newer technologies itself. That kind of puts them on par with the rest of the nationalities. And these two being a major reason for us to now start thinking of moving on to a more technology-driven platform when it comes to teaching.
Sami, with your experience, like what, with the model you operate in, what according to you are the best tech that probably helps in various educational processes like learning, teaching, and management, of course?
I think, hi, hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, Utkarsh, there's nothing like best technology. Of course, technology can, technology can never replace a teacher, of course. But of course, technology definitely reshapes a teacher, okay? We cannot escape the technology. It has come and it is an enabler. It definitely is, you should take it as a boon in disguise. We do implement a lot of technologies in our schools, basically for two reasons. One, for saving a lot of costs, it does save. And second, in our operations, in our academic operations, where we utilize this for collaboration. Then in student engagement, it helps us in using the whole nuances of technology for engagement and for the willingness of the students. Okay, so it's actually helped us in applying, helped our students in applying their knowledge. It also has helped us in the metacognition level, where the students knows how much he knows in the assessments. Yes, of course. So a lot of technologies is being used. The reason here, of course, is we are a group of schools. So standardization is not that easy. If it is, yes, one school, two schools, it's a different experience altogether. So if you're talking about group of schools, yes, definitely technology has helped a lot, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And I think that carries for SUDHIR as well. So, but not many schools are able to probably implement it the way you are implementing at this point. So if you can start by sharing your vision for EdTech implementation in the schools that you run.
Well, so like I mentioned earlier in a couple of our discussions, for CREDENCE International Schools, technology has been the genesis. Right from the day when we started our first school way back in 2011, we, being a young team of people, were very clear of the fact that technology has to be the base for us. I think I somewhere agree with Sir what he mentioned right now. It's, introducing a technology product or an EdTech product in a standalone school is relatively easier, but when it comes to a group chain of schools, it's really a challenge. And that is exactly what we faced as well. So what we did, however, was to actually put in resources around this entire thing, plan the overall implementation right from day one. So I would say day zero, even before we launched our first product or we launched our first curriculum. That is the time we as a management group were very clear that our kids really need to be prepared for a 21st century technology curriculum. So I think in one of my interactions earlier, I've mentioned today we are having multiple conferences across the country which I've been a part of. And this is something which I've kind of highlighted everywhere. We as school leaders are wanting to integrate technology. We are wanting to keep pace with where the kids are going. I mean, let's face it, today our kids are outpacing our teachers on a daily basis, right? Teachers are finding it big time tough to catch up with what the students are capable of doing with technology platforms, tools, and equipments. And that is the reason a very scientific approach to integrating multiple tools or EdTech products or various technologies available for free, paid, whatever that level could be. It depends on the management, what is the roadmap they intend to create for themselves and for the kids, which should actually help them, catch up with the requirements of the new generation careers. So obviously, I am sitting in the technology capital of the country today. I am quite sure that most of the schools here would have embraced a lot of technology tools by now. So that's exactly what is the need, So like for example, if I talk about CREDENCE International Schools, we integrated an iPad-based learning system for all our teachers and our students right from day one, right? We integrated more than about 1,000 applications which are available on, an Apple platform or a Google for Education platform from day one, and took that forward and made it a part of the curriculum right from grade nursery till grade 12. So give me a topic and I would have already told my teacher that for the first 3 days or 4 days of your teaching, you're really not supposed to touch the textbook. Let's keep the theory part a little behind. Let's focus a little more on the experiential and the practical learning aspect of it. Now that experiential learning can be with the help of some tools that we have, let's say for kinesthetic learning, mathematical labs, we have a lot of innovative products like Science Lab and those kind of learning tools. I know a couple of companies which I've met during these conferences who are helping kids understand and experience various mathematics, science, the STEM technology sort of stuff which we're talking about. So it's not necessarily a technology based on a computer screen. It can also be a technology in the hands of the students. So that's what has been the idea. At the same time, I think one of the factors which we had to be very conscious of was the cost part of it. So when we did that bit of it, I think, when we integrated iPads for the first time, of course, we have schools based in Mumbai, we have schools based in Hyderabad, now we are coming up with schools in Bangalore. So in these cities where the price point or the fees that the child is paying is relatively on a higher side, so you can afford to have one-on-one tabs. But then there are places, I am in a place like Aurangabad or Indore or some sort of a tier 2, tier 3 city. In these places, even a shared resource. So we have something called as a iPad lab, which is moving, which is a standard Apple product, can be moved from one class to another. It's a trolley which carries about 30 or 40 odd iPads. All apps can be synced at one time. All the iPads can be charged at the same time. All you need to do is to just dedicate one classroom period for that. You can do it once in a week, twice a week, thrice a week, or whatever that schedule could be. And then, share that resource among the kids. On top of it, the kids who are well off and can afford a personal device, we help them with those apps and push them through a Google for Education kind of a product, which they can go back home and practice with their parents and wherever. So that is what has been our approach to the entire implementation process.
Awesome, and I'm glad that you brought the cost part of it because I think that's one of the key things to be kept in mind. And obviously, we'll be discussing more about the other ways you will use. But Anant, based on your conversations with schools, obviously digitization seems to be the mantra, but what do you think are the key ingredients of the same?
I think we use some sort of a reverse psychology here. Running a school is a very, very respectable and a very responsible task, right? There is umpteen amount of options available to everybody, every school, right from free to really good products that come for a premium. For me, the aspect of acceptance by a school that certain thing is definitely something that will help them achieve their vision is the foremost thing. Let alone the type of technology he was mentioning, right? Technology is available for free and, the whole range is there. Willingness to adopt is, I think, a bigger challenge. And because of the sheer amount of options that are available today, I think that willingness is there, but still I'm not very clear, right? Willingness is step one, clarity of what is most effective for me, because we have been speaking since morning that every student is in, different, unique, and they have different learning paths, different speeds. So are the teachers, right? It is important to look at it as an ecosystem, not just learners as students alone or teachers as teachers alone. They all come together in an ecosystem that is trying to move forward. It's just not these individuals. So always, as technologists, we try and evolve the experience, try and make life easier for them, as he rightly pointed out. Right? Technologies, I don't think any in the near future is going to replace a teacher, but in the morning, ma'am had mentioned in the first speech saying, from facilitators, they have to become activators, right? That's such a profound statement. How can they do that? With a lot of technological evolution, right? And we have just seen this huge wave, so to speak, and this is just the first ripple that's happening. There is, like a sea of waves. There are so many technologies that are evolving that we are not even aware of right now. How do you gauge an emotional engagement of a child? How many of us consider that aspect? There are technologies that I know that are evolving, saying, how do you take into account the emotional quotient of a child when teaching him or her, right? And this is not an easy thing. And teachers have to continuously evolve as well, right? Not just being technically able, but in my opinion, in my humble opinion, being able to appreciate these emotional aspects of it. That is so important. And it's a culmination of all of this.
Get it. And just a follow-up question for you is basically because you mentioned, like, probably there are two types of school, one who might know already of solutions, one who might not know. So who might not know of other solutions similar, like let's say, or in the lines of your product, might want to kind of straight away work with you, or how do you handle cases where they know of a similar product or probably on the same lines, but you still are better? So how do you kind of go on those conversations?
See, there are two aspects to selling, right? One is you convey what you sell, or you convince the other person, then you don't have to sell, right? I strongly am a believer of the latter. If you convince the other person that what you're doing is something that can certainly help them, the selling is done. Because as human beings, I think you can throw 20 things at me that 80% of this room believes in, but if I am not convinced with that, that's not going to work with me, right? So that's what we strongly believe in. Understand, we of course give our experience, share our experience with them, not expertise, experience. But it's important for them to understand that this is what they have to achieve. This is what they want. This is their journey. And this is how we can help them. This is how similar products can help them. When it comes to the nuances, we can certainly give them our experiences. But in my mind, the convincing aspect is what will really make sure that this marriage of multiple technologies and not necessarily just digital, as he rightly pointed out. Right?
Yeah, I think Sudhir mentioned it, like it has to be part of the broader vision.
Even before digital, we all had technology, automobile technology and whatnot. It could be mechanical, it could be electrical, any aspect of it. But the important point is, how are we, extracting the essence of all of this to help us serve the learning community? That's the bottom line.
Get it.
I think I'd like to add something here from what Anand just mentioned. From a school owner or a principal's perspective, he said there are two aspects to it. One is willingness to integrate technology. Two is being able to identify that this is the technology that I need in my school. Now, for a moment, let's just try and extrapolate this thing to our day-to-day lives. we all have been using some or the other form of technology, I believe, right from the moment when we've, been able to understand that, okay, what it is. Whether you talk about a motorcycle, it is a technology. You talk about an automated toy that a child of 2-year or 3-year plays with, it is a technology. You talk about a computer screen that I use in my office is a technology, a laptop, a bike, anything and everything. The flight that I take in the morning is a technology. The train that you travel in is a technology. A bus that you travel in is a technology. The question here is, I'm sure everyone sitting here in this hall has a willingness to adopt some or the other form of technology for upgrading their school, for having a better, learning experience for the child and achieving the outcomes, etc. The key challenge in today's times for a principal or a school owner is, what should that technology be? And I think that is something which changes from every school to school. That is something which changes from location to location. Like, for example, if you talk about my school in Hyderabad, we've integrated something called as a 3D printers, where a child is actually printing as to what exactly is a heart, a human body, a skeleton, etc. Now, that is applicable in Hyderabad, but that's not something which I'm doing in a city called Jalna or Devas, which is a tier 3 or tier 4 city. The same branded school, the same group which is operating the school, but we are not. Because the kind of students and the background with which they are coming up with, the kind of exposure that they have, the readiness of the ecosystem, the teachers, everything varies. So as school owners, I think we need to first define as to, this is what I need. And then I think as an EdTech player, the need, the identity or the need to sell a product comes into the picture. So we as EdTech players need to understand that, okay, this is what the product is, and this is what the market, fitment is. Not every product can be sold in every market. There is a different need, and as a principal, I'm sure each one of us has a different objective. That, okay, I want to do this at this step, I want to do it at this step. So every technology integration needs to have a purpose. A simple question to everybody sitting here, I'm sure everyone has students attending computer class. Yes? Can anyone tell me what is the average typing speed of a child in your school? Do I need to repeat the question? Can you tell me what is the average typing speed of a child in your school? Yeah. Fabulous. And what are we discussing? We are discussing technology integration. Now, that's where I think the biggest challenge is. So in one of my previous interactions, I guess with UTKARSH only, I mentioned that, talking big on technology is a big thing. One of the big changes, I think, which we've brought in CREDENCE International Schools is we have a computer period every day for every class. A class 3 student has a target to achieve a typing speed of 30 words per minute, which starts with 10 words per minute in class 1, goes up to 20 in class 2, goes up to 30 in class 3. That's the first level of technology integration. Forget about all gamification, LR, VR, whatever we're talking about. And then grade 4, 5, start working on PowerPoint, start working on Excel, start working on, so there are days after 2-3 years of our school launch, we ask our students to actually set the school magazine, do the intending, do the, entire setup of it. And that's where, when they come to class 7, 8, 9 level, they are ready to embrace technologies like Apple for Education, Google for Education, PLAYABLO, A-Match, whatever you want to give them. All these things come when the child is matured enough to embrace this and has the basic foundation at the behind. And that is what I think the school needs to nurture. So in this technology era, a humble request, guys. I know you all are pressured with a lot of syllabus, right? But trust me, syllabus completion is not the objective. The objective is skill development, enhancing their abilities, and let's work towards it. One computer period a day really will not hurt you, but will give a lot of addition to their idea. Give it a thought, sit with your teams, and maybe you'll get some productive things coming out of it.
Get it. So thanks for touching on the challenge part. Sami, how do you see challenges, what he talked about, and maybe other, and how do you think we can overcome those, and what trends do you see we can still achieve at scale in spite of these challenges?
I completely agree with Mr. Sudhir here. Technology is not for the technology's sake. There should be intention, there should be a clear objective to implement technology in our campuses. Now, the trends that is shifting right now is the classrooms will no more be the learning models, here onwards. So the times are changing. We are talking about millennials here who are so strong in technology. Sometimes they come and teach us how to use a mobile phone. So mobile phone is nothing but it's a PC, it's a laptop in a small piece of device. So that again, it's a very high-end technology. Now, I again agree with many of the statements made by Mr. Sudhir here. The technology, the computer is the future, okay? And we cannot do away. We should be able to help the children to adopt this. See, like it is like, as per World Economic Forum, 65% of the jobs that will be available in 2030 are not there right now, not even identified. And we are preparing these children to meet those challenges at that point of time. How much are we preparing them? So, it will be like technology will be it'll come like a tsunami, how smartphones came. The same thing will happen as we go. So when we are talking about artificial intelligence, I know to what extent artificial intelligence is penetrated in our mobile phones, in our day-to-day life, in the social media. All of us are being tracked, if you know that. Google knows all of us who all is sitting here. Facebook knows who all is sitting here. So we cannot stop that, okay? And it keeps on going up and up. So basically, I feel, yes, adopting technology is very important. The second very important thing in technology is the collaboration part. So if I look at again, group chain school as a perspective, for me, how do I collaborate teacher to teacher from one school to the other school? Or even if you're a standalone school, it's okay. Can you partner with any other school, and can you help your teachers to collaborate? Can you help your students to collaborate with other schools? Other teachers, school teachers with your students. I mean, that's where the whole world is heading now. So yes, it's very important to have technology coming into the classrooms, doing away with the classroom as a model, as a learning model, and help our students to have a better experience of learning.
Get it. So covering the basic technology literacy and then going on to other parts is what probably both commented. So Nilesh, what are some of the newer models that like you imply, and what are the associated challenges you would want to share?
Okay, I was there in Delhi last week, so I'm trying to compare between the two discussions, and I'm happy that nobody has still raised the cost factor, or rather cribbed about the cost factor of not wanting to raise, say, 50 rupees per student, and so on and so on. Considering my business school, well, we were among the first ones in France to adopt the green campus along with integrated technology solutions themselves. And we had an option whether we need to bring in an external consultant to figure out how to implement things, or we realized that, okay, we have a change management professor who is among us, and we could take his assistance and ensure that my entire administrative team, as well as the rest of the professors, get in line with what our requirements are. Of course, the requirements were planned at a 5-year basis rather than a 1-year basis. So after a year, nobody was expecting major results, but we had a 5-year vision of where we would want to be. Ours is a school where most of the employees have been working for more than 20 years. So there was a huge inertia and a resistance when it came to accepting technology solutions. So this is where you need to speak with all the stakeholders, make them understand what is happening. What I've sensed majorly when I've spoken with the principals over here in Delhi, across India, is that are you accepting technology solutions because you want it or because of peer pressure? That would actually set the ball rolling for how you are going to implement it. If it is because of peer pressure, then you're just going to accept whichever first EdTech company comes along. You might end up paying a bomb for it, and not getting anything out of it a year down the line, getting your fingers burnt and not wanting to touch it again with a long rod. But if you're doing it organically, then you need to first and foremost, of course, set up a good enough and achievable target for the next 3 years. Figure it out how you are going to do it, how many members are going to be involved, how are you going to plan it out, and then make a move. The reason I say 3 years target is because 5 years down the line, you might not have an option whether you can accept technology or not. This is the period where you can actually, command and tell the technology guys what exactly you want, rather than what is being offered to you as a compulsion 5 years down the line. I remember a quote by Seth Godin, who is a marketing expert from US, and he had said, when things go digital, everything and anything that could be measured gets measured. So this is where you have to be very specific in what exactly is it that you would like to measure when technology comes into picture. So somebody might want to measure, okay, how many are pass and fail. The others might want to measure how much average time did the pass guys get and how much average time did the fail guys spend upon and get in some or the other metric within that as well. We did implement the Blackboard way, where most of the studies at EDHEC happen online. Students barely use any paper books. Majorly because it's very difficult to buy the books. So normally it's the library where the students go and order the books, and the library will order it on the behalf of the students and so on. So we have kind of moved into a paperless model of studies, and this has continued since 2009. These are some of the challenges that we have overcome in the last 10 years, and I did hear one of the panelists speaking of collaborating with other schools. So most recently, we have started collaborating. We call it as an intercontinental track. So we find out who are the colleges across the globe who are on the same par as technology implementation is concerned. So we could do something similar with the Indian schools itself, where you share resources. And that's one of the ways where you can, kind of build in the momentum to become, say, the top ranking, say, technology embracing schools in India.
Thank you. And in fact, you just answered my follow-up question on the collaboration part, because that's one higher ed practice also that is equally applicable in K-12. So I think it makes more sense. So we have talked about this, but I think at the heart of it are the teachers, right? So Sudhir, probably starting you, and then Sami can join in on how do you or your staff kind of at schools stay abreast of these EdTech trends? Because you were talking about all the reasons to be before you kind of go into picking on the technology. So how do your staff do that?
See, the reason is almost quite blatantly there right in our face. Yeah? A 2-year-old child today operates a mobile phone much better, much efficiently than a 50-year-old principal. So one of my principal who very recently traveled to US, her grandson was living in US with his son and family. He was teaching her that how to operate certain apps on a Apple platform or whatever it is. And then she came back and, very excited told me that, sir, see, my 2.5-year-old grandson has taught me how to use this. And suddenly I told her, ma'am, this is exactly what I've been trying to teach my teachers since last 6 months. But you never actually gave that attention to the whole thing, because you had such an apathy to the whole thing that, why to give such a thing to a nursery grade child? But when your own grandson is doing it and you're teaching this, now you see the value in it. So, that is where the whole thing is. But I think that was a blessing in disguise for me. And I'll quote one of my another colleagues in Mumbai who is based there running a school. So, such a vision. He has a robotic arm in the school. He has 5 3D printers in the school. He's got, and it's a state board school where he's charging nothing more than, some 1,500 rupees or odd per month, sort of. But he made a decision, class 5 onwards, there are no blackboards in the classrooms. Can you imagine a classroom without a blackboard? So he's given a projector, he's given an internet connection, and he's given a tablet to every teacher. And then he says that whatever topic you want to teach, the first thing that I want you to do is just go and Google it. When you go to Google, Google gives you a text search, then it gives you an image search, then it gives you a video search. So once you've addressed all these three, so what you're trying to do is you're not trying to teach a child what to learn, you're trying to teach how to learn. So if I go to Google and search these three things about any topic, I'm done. I don't need a textbook, I don't need a blackboard. So that is where, the whole transformation comes in. And the question that you asked me, how do I prepare my teachers for this? So there are two ways to do it. One, what he did. So he said, okay, nothing doing. From next month, I'm giving you 30 days. And from next month onward, there'll be no blackboards in the classroom. You do whatever you want to. So that was like a forced one. The other way is that, okay, what we did in a couple of our schools, we identified the harbingers or the leaders who are going to do it, some young ones who wanted to experiment with technology. Of course, our teacher selection process is a little like that, so we ensure that whoever is coming board doesn't really have a complete apathy to technology, at least is having a willingness to learn and embrace technology as best as possible. So then, guiding those 4, 5, 8 teachers to first experiment with all sort of things, and then they becoming the inspiration for the other teachers that, okay, this teacher has done something great, why can't I do it? Or then they become mentors within the system or across the schools. We do a lot of cross trainings within, let's say a maths department or a science department or an English department. Get one person within your school or a department to embrace it. Once he does a marvelous job, so I'm heading about 8 or 9 schools right now with more than 600 teachers. I can't be sitting with every teacher at every point of time. So what I do is every alternate month, I have a team of 20 teachers coming from various schools to my head office where they spend 3 days with me. We do nothing but just experiment, go to Apple Store, just experiment. So everyone has apps, you download an app, let's just play with it and see which one is a great app to be integrated, taken back to the school with the curriculum and etc. So that once you involve them into that whole process of, exploring it, it works wonders. And trust me, I'll come back to what he said, cost for any principal, like I mentioned earlier, so for me, technology integration is a 5-stage process. From, orientation, when I say knowing the computer, tablet, screen, typing, etc. Second step, being familiar with the basics, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Office. Third, going to maybe Adobe and, those designing tools, etc. Fourth is the artificial intelligence and these things. And fifth, of course, is getting into the innovation or development of new technology. So, when we say that hierarchy of learning, this is what it would be. And trust me, out of these 5 stages, first 3 are free. First 3 stages really do not cost you anything. You already have a computer lab, that's more than enough. But the day you're done justice with these 3, you are up and running to embrace the stage 4 and 5, which can do wonders for any school.
Thanks a lot. Sami,
I would add to a little bit with what Mr. Sudhir has said. See, we have close to around 12,000 staff. And for us, our objective while introducing technology is only 2. And I'm sure it's the same for all of us in this hall. One is how we can save cost. That is the primary objective. And the second is a ROI, return on investment of what we are investing in the learning experiences of a child. So there, we cannot measure in terms of cost saving there. So we need to more measure our return on investment. Now, coming to the challenges of how can we make our teachers tech-enabled or tech-savvy. And believe me, it's not that easy. It depends on where the school lies. First of all, is it in Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3? And sometimes we really have problems in few teachers in Tier 1 or metro cities. And the worst part is the Tier 3. So, of course, right now we are doing through push. We are making them forcefully use it. The reason here is we have standardized curriculum following process. And if they are not technology enabled, it becomes to them very difficult to plan their lessons, to plan their day work, to schedule themselves. So this is one way it has been forced upon them. They are learning on their own. But the biggest challenge for us is how do they implement our curriculum? See, Basically our curriculum is not teacher-centric, it's more of a student-centric. You know? That's the way the problem starts with. Now, the lesson plans that we send to these different schools across the country, each teacher looks at it in a different way. Although we have defined it to a very micro level, and a lot of technology has to be used for that activity-based learning process. Like Mr. Sudhir said, yes, even we don't have blackboards. We normally have digitized classrooms. And it's like spoon-fed. We are giving them everything. Now, one big, yes, again, Mr. Sudhir said is that the culture of the school, the principal of the school matters a lot. And if she is not tech savvy, then it's very difficult for us to implement any such process in the school. So our focus is wherever we are trying to recruit is how to get a tech savvy principal first. And believe me, 80% of our challenge is met there. So yes, a lot of challenges, a lot of training is happening. It's a massive staff force. And in other 5 years, we are touching 50,000 staff, and we have our own plans. Trainings are being done. Yes, it's all.
Thank you. I would like to open the floor and ask if the audience has questions. Please keep the questions direct, and if you are asking someone specific, you can mention it.
Good quality hardware, which is imported, is quite expensive. So how should they do it? What roadmap should they follow?
See, like Mr. Sudhir was saying earlier, we already have computer labs, and that's mandatory if you're starting a school. Even if you're talking to a lower strata of the society, a school without a computer lab we can't even imagine. So if you have, many of the tools you get today is all open source. You know, it's all free of cost. So Google has that option, Microsoft has that option. So I don't think you really need to invest a lot if you really want to implement technology, if you want to enable teaching learning process through a lot of modules. Like for example, I'll tell you there's something called Google Expedition, okay, if you have heard of. They have 900 such interactive learning videos. It's interactive. Now you don't need to send a child to NASA to see NASA, or for example, Mount Everest to climb the Mount Everest, okay? So you can do it with that Google. So it's all free. You don't need to pay for it. So a lot of such technology tools are available free. You don't need to pay at all. So no, but you need to define what your objective is, whether it is in the teaching learning process and how far you want to go in the teaching learning process. Okay?
Thank you.
Just adding on to this point, everyone spoke about iPhone and iPads. For me, those are one of the most sophisticated systems in the world as of today. But how much are we trying to learn out of it, right? So like it was mentioned, do you know the typing speed of your students? So it all depends on how much are we willing, or how much warmth do we have towards learning technology, and can we go that extra mile to kind of squeeze every single juice out of whatever is at our disposal? That matters.
You know, it's also, in fact, I'd like to add something here, because you talked about the school which are not able to, have a big fee structure or something like that. And I run a couple of schools which are specifically located in a tier 3, or for that matter, even a tier 4 town, where my fee structure is not higher than, say, around 25,000 rupees a year. While I run schools in Bangalore and Hyderabad which are as high as $1.5 lakh per year. You need to have very clear definition and the objective of technology. What are you really wanting to be? So I asked one question, what is your typing speed? You know why I asked this question? I asked this question to my computer teacher. I asked this question to my school principal. There is a purpose to it. When a child comes to me as to seek admission in my school, let's say in Whitefield or Gachibowli in Hyderabad or BKC in Mumbai, and pays me a bomb of a fees of 2 lakh, 3 lakh, whatever that figure, the parent has a different set of expectation. when they come to my IB school, they want their kids to be going abroad and doing some innovation in the Silicon Valley and, originating or inventing the technologies of tomorrow. But when I go to a tier 4 city, and I'm really not demeaning anyone, of course, all the kids are equal for me. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that there is a mindset that the parent has. What is the mindset of a parent in a tier 3 or a tier 2 or a tier 1 city? In a tier 4, 3 and 2 city, even today, 90% of the parents want their kids to become engineers and doctors. Why? Employment is the big challenge. Yeah? And what they want is that if my child is able to earn his livelihood after his graduation or post-graduation, I think that much of intervention of technology is more than enough. I don't want him to become a Steve Jobs tomorrow. So let's look at it as the objective. That's what I said. What is the objective? And I go back to my entire discussion that I had. So this is what I do in my tier 4 cities. The day I make my child able to type 30, 40, 50 words a minute, he's employable immediately after 12th to earn something like 10, 15, 20,000 rupees a month. Number one. The day I make him expert in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, he becomes 25 to 30,000 rupees a month. The day I make him expert in a Photoshop and a Corel Draw, he becomes 50,000 rupees a month. So let's understand, and by the way, till now we are free in technology, no cost. Yeah, these three are absolutely free. So a 12th pass student in India with these 3 levels of technology understanding, forget artificial intelligence, forget VR, forget these things. All these are way beyond Apple sab chhod dete hain abhi for the moment. But this much done enables you as a school leader to do justice to technology. If that is done in a tier 3 or a low rung school where the price point is not very high, and like Sami mentioned, you definitely have a computer lab in your school, right?
I would like to share one specific experience in a tier 3 city, sir, to your question specifically. I'm sure you will know that a lot of these children are first generation learners, right? So the apprehension from, as Sudhir mentioned, right, the parents is fairly high. But the children are not carrying that apprehension. I think as schools, it's perhaps your, challenge is to convince the parents, and that's not easy, I'm not saying it's easy, right? But if you convince them that this is certainly something that will help your child go forward and he or she is actually good at it, I think a pull factor of adoption is always stronger than a push. So we'll be able to make ways, and then comes the cost of it. If you really say, we really want this, I'm sure there will be queuing up, tech companies will be queuing up to partner with you because you really want it. And cost may not become a factor then.
Last question, please, yeah.
Yeah, just 10 seconds. In terms of everything, technology, etc., one thing we see in students is huge amount of impatience and restlessness caused only by technology. And if you know Bill Gates and whoever it is in Twitter, all of them send their children to non-technology schools, at least for the first till the age of 12. So in this our rush to do everything, AR, VR, ABCD, etc., aren't we not making our children less patient, which is what basically Amazon and Facebook want, because the less patient you are, your decisions are more emotion-driven, a rush of blood, which will get them what they want to get. Any one of the panelists can answer.
No, I would just like to share, Anand Kumar, what you said about tier 4 cities, about the technology. I head a school which is in the tier 4, and to know with the parents how they are unaware about the technology, I am doing a course for the parents for 3 months, where every class 5 parents are selected, especially only the mothers, and they have to come from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, where I see that the computer lab is kept free for them, and the parents do study, and after every 3 months, we do assess them to know where they are. Though they are illiterate, they do not know how to read proper English, but with the WhatsApp and everything, nowadays they're doing it much better. So with my plan and WhatsApp group, the technology has helped me to bring my parents an awareness And when the parents are aware, the child doesn't say, Mama, you don't understand, don't tell me. So it's mother and the child going together in the tier 4. So I feel a small request to Sudhir that please see that tier 4 cities, technology is required more than the tier 1.
And the magic here is not technology. The magic here is the willingness to.
Yes.
I'm sure all of us agree to that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
In fact, I'd like to bring your attention to maybe, there is a very famous TED video which is done by, sorry? Yeah, it's called Wall in the Window, right? No, it's Window in the Wall or something, yeah?
Hole in the wall.
Now, that is what has been an inspiration for me. Trust me, I've never really deprived any of my tier 4 students from any technology platform. And coming back to the previous question, I think, sir, that impatience element of technology that we are talking about, I've heard a lot of school leaders being afraid of bringing in technologies just because of that one element, right? But I think what has worked for us and what we very consciously practice or intend to do is whatever we are giving in the hands of the students need to be very scientifically thought out, planned, and then delivered. If we start giving them randomly, like he said, if we're giving it only for the heck of doing it out of a peer pressure, then I think we are doing absolute injustice. But as long as we have a roadmap defined, so I'm okay if we are not giving them AR, VR sort of a stuff till grade 12, the age of 12. Absolutely fine. But I think till that age, that is the time, like I was advocating, for building the basics of, like, think about any corporate organization today. Can we survive without typing? I think that's the most important technology that we need to work on. It's about the balance. And I think I'll extend that part of restlessness. It's not just with the kids. I would want to probably make a statement. I am far more restless than I was 10 years ago, thanks to technology. Right, the attention span on a device in your hand does not really demand the amount of time I used to spend with a book 10 years ago lying in my bed is very different from amount of time that I spend with a Amazon Fire Stick or a Times of India app on my phone. So it definitely is making all of us restless as a society, and I 100% agree with you. It's about how do we channelize it, how do we structure it so that it does more good than bad. So everything has pros and cons. It's about how do we strike a balance.
Yeah, just to add into to the point raised, this is something which I have been thinking of. Why, how is it different with education in France or any of the other developed countries? And what I've seen is that for the first 10 years of a child's life, they do not teach anything related to technology. They just teach life skills, survival skills, nothing else. That does not mean the parents do not teach kids technology, but it's in a very controlled fashion. A brief example, yesterday I just reached, I was in France the last few days. I came to Mumbai early morning. So I was in the flight and there was this kid sitting there. He was trying to put the Apple PowerPoint plug point into the USB. And he was crying because it was not going in. So at this point, I am also thinking of how dependent is the child on everything and how is the child going to start reacting if things don't work according to he wants. So this is more of, parent side of what exactly happens in the house and how it works across with the schools as well.
So thank you, panelists, and thank you, audience. Let's take the conversation offline as well.